The broadcast began with gold light and applause. Across the galactic capital of Varan Prime, 1 billion alien delegates rose in shimmering robes as the king entered, crowned in plasma and pride. His voice thundered through the ether, each syllable translated, magnified, and delivered into every listening mind across the stars. Justice, he declared, has been done. The human colony of Lyra 9, defiant and insolent, has been erased. 3 billion souls purified. The crowd cheered like waves against steel. The sound rolled outward into the cosmos, echoed through translation arrays, and reached a small blue planet spinning quietly around a yellow star. On Earth, the broadcast glowed across a single screen inside the granite-buried War Command beneath the Rockies. The air was still enough to hear the hum of the filters. General Mason Hale sat in the center of the room, his uniform unbuttoned at the throat, a half-drunk cup of coffee steaming beside his hand. The alien monarch's golden face rippled across the wall-sized hollow before him. Hale's jaw barely moved, his eyes unmoving. He had the kind of expressionless calm that frightened young officers more than rage ever could. A junior aide, barely 20, still calling him sir too often, whispered, "Permission to respond, General?" His voice trembled, not from fear of Hale, but of the silence. Everyone else in the chamber was watching Hale's reflection instead of the broadcast itself. "Respond," Hale murmured. "To what?" "The genocide, sir." Hale sipped his coffee, swallowed, and looked at the steaming cup as if measuring its patience. "Turn it off." The aide hesitated. "Sir, it's a live interstellar feed." "Turn it off." The comm carried the weight of an earthquake. The aide obeyed. The image vanished, and the walls dimmed to gray. No one moved. For a long time, the only sound was the faint hiss of air recycling. Hale leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and closed his eyes. 3 billion, he said quietly. "That's what, 41 lyras per second." The statistic floated in the air like ash. "At least they're efficient." "Sir," murmured Admiral Ruiz, older than Hale and twice as weary, "we have preliminary satellite scans confirming the destruction. Civilian structures. No survivors. Should we? No press conference. No retaliation order. Not yet." Hale opened his eyes. Just silence. Ruiz frowned. "The Council will see that as weakness." "Good," Hale said. "Let them." Somewhere far above, in orbit, satellites blinked red in confusion as orders halted midstream. The galaxy waited for humanity's rage. None came. No fiery threats. No military broadcasts. Earth simply went dark. Hours later, in the upper orbit embassy ring, alien ambassadors gathered in private networks to discuss the Terran reaction. Most laughed. Some pitted. A few, mostly those who had seen Earth wars, remained quiet. The Threxian envoy, scaled and old, hissed to his peers, "When a predator stops growling, it means it's stalking." But that nuance was lost on the Galactic King, who continued his victory tour across systems. His speeches filled the networks. Humanity's chapter in history is concluded. Their worlds will be divided among civilized species. They were emotional, primitive, and unpredictable. Now they are gone. The aliens roared approval. Even those who feared Earth's cunning convinced themselves the age of mammals was over. In the War Command, General Hale stood before a black steel door marked Janus, classified Level Omega. It had been sealed for 40 years. His access key hovered in his palm, trembling faintly under the biometric field. He didn't open it yet. Instead, he turned to his second-in-command, Colonel Avery Wu, whose steady gaze betrayed nothing. "Ambassador Thrix of the Valerie sent condolences," she said, almost wry. "He asked if we require emotional support units." Hale's eyebrow lifted. "And you told him?" "That we're doing fine, just catching up on sleep." A small smile touched Hale's mouth. "Good answer." He didn't get the joke. They never do. She hesitated. "Sir, the UN Council wants a public statement." Hale looked past her to the sealed door, the faint hum behind it like a buried heartbeat. "Here's your statement. Tell them we're fine. Tell them humans don't mourn like others. We archive it, store it, and someday, maybe years from now, we open the box." Wu's tone softened. And when we open it, he met her eyes. We stopped pretending. Far across the galaxy, alien broadcasters continued their carnival of victory. Holos of human cities burning were looped with commentary about primitive carbon-based arrogance. Merchants began selling extinct human souvenirs, plastic replicas of rifles, ancient flags, and even canned replicas of Earth coffee. A galactic sitcom aired depicting humans as bumbling savages who once tried diplomacy with gods. It was good entertainment. The king approved of laughter. In the darkness of Earth orbit, the human satellites continued to transmit nothing. No signals, no commerce, no chatter. Only one dormant beacon remained alive, Janus Node Alpha, circling the moon. Every 3 hours, it sent a heartbeat pulse, a simple signal, old and meaningless to aliens. They classified it as residual noise. Down in the Rockies, Hale stood again at the command table. A single screen displayed the king's latest speech. The alien's grandeur filled the room with light. Hale gestured, and the image froze mid-sentence. He stared at it for a moment, his reflection hovering faintly within the king's eyes. "They think we're grieving," he said. A young analyst murmured, "Aren't we?" Hale considered that, as if the thought were foreign. "No. Grief is for when you lose something forever." He leaned forward, voice steady. "We haven't lost anything yet." He picked up the communicator on the table. "Patch me through to Lunar Command." Wu hesitated. "Officially or off the record?" She nodded and connected the line. Hale spoke quietly into the receiver. "Initiate Black Protocol under Janus authorization. No transmissions. No confirmations. Just silence." He paused, eyes still on the frozen image of the king's smiling face. "And start the clock." The receiver clicked off. Around him, the command room seemed to shrink. Every officer present realized what had just been set in motion, though none would name it. History, once again, had tilted. A moment later, Wu asked softly, "Sir, what do we tell the ambassadors if they call again?" Hale looked at his reflection in the blank screen, a faint shadow framed by distant stars. His voice was calm. "Tell them we're still civilized." He turned and walked toward the sealed door, pressed his hand against the biometric panel, and whispered the passcode like a confession. The locks disengaged with a low mechanical sigh. The door slid open, revealing rows of dormant servers humming with faint blue light and the old motto etched above them, Project Janus, for when humanity grows tired of pretending. Hale stepped inside. Wu watched him vanish into the blue glow, the air thick with the weight of the unsaid. Behind her, the screen flickered back to life. The Galactic King smiled again, mid-sentence, proud and unknowing. Outside, beyond the mountains, the wind swept the snow in slow spirals. The satellites above Earth blinked once, twice, then went dark, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. And far away, in the corners of alien space, the predators of the galaxy felt an ancient chill they could not name. For 3 days, Earth said nothing. Across the galaxy, that silence grew louder than any war cry could have. The communication channels, usually thick with Terran chatter and sarcasm, went dark. Their trading vessels docked, their diplomats withdrew, their orbital relays flickered out. The last human transmission was a weather report. Then nothing. It was as though the entire species had collectively inhaled and decided not to exhale. On Varen Prime, where the Galactic King basked in triumph, confusion began to creep into celebration. Alien newscasters speculated with glee and disdain. "Humans cannot process loss," one anchor laughed, her voice metallic through translation software. "Their primitive minds are collapsing under grief." Another added, "They'll beg for mercy within a week." They're mammals, emotional and unpredictable. Their words echoed across worlds, broadcast into bars, market squares, and orbital stations, where alien crowds nodded and clinked glasses in agreement. The humans, they decided, were done. In the War Command bunker beneath the Rockies, Mason Hale watched those same broadcasts through a static haze. He was alone now, seated in the dim blue light of the Situation Room, sipping from a cup gone cold hours ago. The faces of alien commentators flickered across the wall like phantoms, their laughter oddly distant. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just listened, measuring them the way a sniper measures wind. Colonel Avery Wu entered quietly, her steps soft against the floor. "Sir," she said, handing him a datapad, "the Galactic Council issued an emergency decree. They're mobilizing patrol fleets along human sectors. They think we're planning an uprising." Hale set his cup down. "An uprising would mean we plan to survive." Wu frowned. "They're mocking us openly now. You should hear their broadcasts." "I have," he said simply. "They talk too much when they're scared." Wu glanced at the muted screens, one eyebrow raised. "They sound pretty confident to me." He gave her a small, unreadable smile. Confidence and fear share a heartbeat. Outside in orbit, Earth's network of satellites remained ghostly still, each one silent, yet awake. Deep within the lunar base, engineers worked under red emergency lights. No one was speaking above a whisper. The air tasted like anticipation and iron. Orders had come directly from Hale. No outward transmissions, no acknowledgments, no signs of life. Humanity had gone dark by design. The alien governments panicked quietly beneath their laughter. The Seraph Dominion, known for its cold-blooded precision, issued a private report that circulated among upper councils. "Human silence," it read, "is historically followed by disproportionate retaliation. Recommend immediate withdrawal of fleets from Terran proximity." The warning was ignored. No one wanted to look afraid of the monkeys who had once begged for trade treaties. Meanwhile, on the outer edges of colonized space, small alien freighters began to vanish. At first, they blamed pirates. Then, when wreckage failed to appear, they blamed sensor interference. But in truth, no one knew what was happening. Their last recorded transmissions carried only a faint, rhythmic hum, steady, mechanical, almost like breathing. Back on Earth, the command bunker pulsed with hidden life. Hundreds of personnel moved through corridors lit by cold fluorescent strips, their faces pale, eyes sharp. Some carried files labeled Janus, others loaded encrypted drives into black cases. No one spoke of vengeance aloud, but every motion, every glance carried the weight of it. Hale stood at the center of the operations floor, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the giant map hovering above the table. Alien territories glowed in faint colors. Human colonies, once bright, were reduced to ashes on the display. "Any word from Mars base?" he asked. "Silent, sir," an officer replied. "All systems dark per directive." "Good. Silence is a language they don't understand." Wu approached, holding a small hollow projector. "We intercepted this an hour ago." She pressed play. The image of an alien ambassador appeared, tall, insectoid, dressed in shimmering ceremonial armor. His tone was falsely sympathetic. "On behalf of the Galactic Council," he droned, "we extend condolences for your cultural loss. Please inform your civilians that retribution will not continue. If Earth pledges permanent disarmament and surrenders control of its jump gates." The room was quiet. Hale leaned forward slightly, studying the alien's expression. "Play it again," he said. Wu did. When it ended, Hale smiled faintly, the kind of smile that looked more like a scar. "Permanent disarmament," he repeated. "He's worried. Should I draft a response?" Wu asked. "Sure," Hale said, reaching for his cup again. "Tell him we appreciate their concern for our emotional well-being. Assure them that we're processing our grief." He paused to sip, then added, "And tell them to stay calm if things start flickering." Wu blinked. Flickering. He turned away. "They'll understand soon enough." Outside, the stars shifted. Across dozens of alien networks, a strange anomaly appeared simultaneously. A pulse, brief, silent, and precise. It wasn't a signal any species could decode. It wasn't even directed at them. It was the activation code for something ancient and hidden. Every galactic relay that had ever used human-designed translation software flickered once, twice. Then the feed stabilized, though slightly distorted. Alien engineers blamed solar radiation. But in human archives, deep under the Rockies, a new process quietly began. Janus awakening. Phase 1. The galaxy continued to laugh, unaware it had just handed the humans its voice. Days passed. Alien patrols near Earth began to report malfunctions, sensor ghosts, misaligned coordinates, ships drifting off course. On the 10th day, a Varan scout cruiser picked up a transmission, floating through open space. It was a human voice, calm, slightly amused. For every child burned, a world will dim. The message was short. Then the feed dissolved into static. Within hours, it spread everywhere, across markets, universities, even palace networks. Panic rippled beneath the surface of denial. No one claimed responsibility, yet every species blamed Earth. The king, furious, declared it terrorist propaganda and promised punishment. Still, no one could trace its source. In the bunker, Hale listened to the recording for the 7th time. His fingers drummed the table softly, rhythmically. "They'll call it fear-mongering," he murmured. "Then they'll start sleeping with lights on." Wu's gaze lingered on him. "You think they'll retaliate?" He smiled without humor. "They already did. They just don't know we're still answering." She studied him in silence, trying to read the man behind the mask of discipline. "Sir, when we do strike back, what's the goal? Justice or deterrence?" "Neither," Hale said. "Correction." The word hung heavy in the air. Later that night, Hale stood outside the bunker on a narrow observation deck. Snow drifted around him, cold and soundless. The horizon glowed faintly where the aurora met the curvature of the earth. He thought of Lyra 9, the children in its schools, the miners, the voices that had gone still. And for the first time in years, he let himself feel it. The grief, the weight, the bitter peace of certainty. He spoke softly into the wind. "They wanted gods," he said. "They got gardeners instead." From orbit, the satellites blinked again, this time in perfect synchronization. One pulse, then another. In the galactic core, data servers began to fail one by one. No alarm sounded. No ships burned. Just silence, quiet, clinical, and spreading. And on Varan Prime, as the king prepared another speech, his communication systems flickered for exactly 7 seconds. In that brief darkness, something ancient whispered through the static. A human heartbeat, calm and steady. The king froze mid-sentence, feeling, for the first time, something his kind had forgotten existed. Fear. The galaxy began to whisper. Not in words, but in tremors, soft, electrical, and wrong. Fleets reported power fluctuations, command networks stuttered, and ships of the victorious coalition drifted slightly off course, as if the very stars were nudging them away from Earth. Engineers blamed solar interference, quantum lag, or human sabotage. But no sabotage could be traced. Nothing could be seen. Only the silence pulsed through systems like a vein under glass. On the throne world of Varan Prime, the Galactic King summoned his generals. The audience chamber glittered with crystal light, but the air carried tension sharp as frost. "It's a bluff," he insisted, his golden voice trembling despite himself. "Their species lacks the capability for this scale of disruption." His eyes flicked to the hologram of a Seraph tactician, scaled, cold, and patient. The reptilian general inclined his head. "Your Majesty, you burned their children. A species that invents fire never forgets what it feels like." The king slammed a hand on the table, jewels flashing. "You're saying they're attacking, without weapons?" "Not attacking," the Seraph replied. "Correcting." Across the void, the USS Vengeance protocol hung in silence, a dark triangle against the stars. It was the only Terran ship still transmitting, though no one could trace the signal's origin. Its beacon pulsed with an old Earth melody, something called Painted Black, faint and distorted. To the aliens, it sounded like static. To Hale, watching from the war command below the Rockies, it was music. He stood before a panoramic display, arms folded, gaze distant. Behind him, technicians worked quietly, faces pale under the blue glow of the screens. The entire human network now moved under Janus protocol. Nothing escaped. Every satellite, relay, and outpost was folded into a single mindless unity, one machine made of silence. Colonel Wu approached, her steps echoing softly. The King's fleets are gathering near Mars orbit. 27 species have joined him. Combined mass, half the galactic armada. Good, Hale said. Wu hesitated. You sound pleased. I am. They're coming to one place. Saves us the trouble of chasing them later. She frowned. Sir, that's an entire coalition. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. He turned toward her, calm as ever. Outnumbered doesn't matter when they're standing on your chessboard. Wu's jaw tightened. And the pieces? He looked up at the glowing sphere of Earth on the screen. Already moving. In orbit, the alien fleets formed an iron halo around the planet. Hundreds of ships, burning with plasma light, their engines humming like angry gods. Commanders spoke with the certainty of conquerors. They're cornered, said one. They've gone primitive, said another. When they detected the human ship drifting toward them, they laughed. The Vengeance Protocol floated dead and unarmed. Its hull was old, unremarkable. A lone Terran transmission followed it, audio only. Hale's voice, level and clear, resonated across every receiver. To the gathered fleets of the Galactic Council, thank you for coming. I know travel isn't easy when you're overconfident. Alien channels erupted with outrage. Identify yourself, one demanded. Another sneered. Earth General Hale. You speak for ghosts. Hale smiled faintly from the bunker, knowing they couldn't see him. Not ghosts, he said. Gardeners. You left weeds. We're cleaning up. The fleet commander barked. Your threats are meaningless. You have no ships, no armies. Hale interrupted softly. That's what you think. And then, one by one, the alien ships began to dim. At first it was subtle, the flicker of a power core, the shiver of a guidance relay. Then systems cascaded into blackout. Entire cruisers went dark, their engines dying mid-orbit. Alarms screamed across decks. Pilots slammed controls, shouting in panic as screens filled with static. It was chaos without a single shot fired. On Varen Prime, the King's advisors scrambled to understand. It's a viral weapon. No, it's atmospheric interference. No trace of intrusion detected. Yet everywhere, the same phrase appeared on malfunctioning monitors. Janus execution complete. Resetting. In the bunker, Wu's voice trembled. Sir, you mean Janus was already inside their systems? Hale didn't answer immediately. His reflection floated against the glass, eyes cold. They trusted our software to translate their languages, to teach their AI's emotion. They let us into everything. All we did was wait for the right reason to pull the plug. The room was silent except for the hum of data streams. Outside in orbit, the fleets drifted powerless. Dozens of ships collided gently, silent fireworks of light. Hale's next order came softly. Drop the rods. From human orbitals and hidden stations across the solar system, tungsten rods, simple, dumb, devastating, fell from the dark. They struck with no explosion, no theatrics. Just impact. Planets shuddered. Warships cracked open like fruit. The vacuum swallowed everything, without echo. Alien distress calls flooded across networks, frantic, pleading. Our power is gone. We're blind, coordinates lost, something's inside our systems. Then silence again. Wu stared at the map as red markers winked out one by one. Sir, this is extinction. No, Hale said softly. This is balance. He looked up at the stars on the screen, each flicker a dying empire. For a long moment, he said nothing, just breathed. They always thought civilization meant safety. They forgot civilization was our disguise. In the depths of alien space, survivors gathered around dim screens, terrified. They replayed the human transmission, searching for meaning. The words for every child burned. A world will dim, played like a dirge. But the tone, calm, almost regretful, unnerved them most. It wasn't vengeance. It was procedure. The Seraph general, now stranded aboard a powerless cruiser, whispered to his aide. We should have listened. The silence was never mourning, it was calibration. The aide shivered. What do they want now? To stop pretending, the general said. Meanwhile, the Galactic King sat in his throne, fists clenched, as advisors screamed for orders. The communication grid was collapsing. the stars themselves flickering under human code. "Send everything to Earth," he shouted. "End this now." But the reply came not from his generals, only from Hale's voice, soft and precise, transmitted directly into the royal chamber. "Your Majesty, with respect, you've mistaken peace for progress. You mistook mercy for surrender. Humans don't start wars, we finish them." The king rose, trembling with fury. "You think yourself divine? You're animals." Hale's voice didn't change. "Exactly. And nature doesn't debate kings." The chamber lights failed. For 7 seconds, the capital world went black. When illumination returned, every holographic system across the galaxy bore the same image, a Terran flag, scorched but unbroken, fluttering silently against the void. Beneath it, a single line glowed in red. "This isn't war. This is maintenance." Wu turned to Hale, her voice nearly a whisper. "Sir, what happens now?" He didn't look away from the screens. "Now we let them remember what fear feels like." Above Earth, the Vengeance protocol shifted course. Its engines ignited, blazing like a dying star. It vanished into hyperspace, destination unknown. The alien fleets, once gods of war, floated like driftwood in its wake. In the command bunker, Hale finally exhaled, the ghost of weariness brushing his face. "You know," he said quietly, "they used to call us civilized." Wu looked at him. "Were we?" He smiled faintly. "For a while." Then the lights dimmed, the screens turned black, and in that perfect quiet, humanity disappeared from every galactic sensor. By choice. Somewhere beyond reach, in the cold between stars, a single human transmission began looping endlessly across abandoned channels. It was Hale's voice, low and even, carrying the final warning the galaxy would never forget. "We tried peace. Now we'll try memory." The Galactic King no longer slept. His once brilliant throne room now flickered with unstable power, every holographic light trembling as though afraid to stay lit. Messages poured in from shattered fleets and burning worlds. Each report spoke the same sentence in different tongues. "The humans are still here." He gripped the armrest, his golden claws scraping the metal. "I burned their colonies," he hissed to his council. "I crushed their cities. I erased their names." "And yet," murmured the Seraph tactician beside him, "their silence grows louder." He slammed his fist down. "Then we will drown it." But even as he spoke, the lights dimmed again, just for a heartbeat. And in that flicker, every communication hub across the capital displayed a single image, a human face. Not smiling, not angry, just watching. Then the screens went black, leaving the echo of breathing through the static. Across the galaxy, panic erupted. Entire systems cut power to stop the signal. Ships jumped blind through wormholes. Civilian worlds rioted. The galaxy's proud architecture of control collapsed under the weight of one truth. The humans had become ghosts, and ghosts can be anywhere. Under the Rockies, Mason Hale stood before the massive viewport of the War Command, the cold light from the monitors tracing harsh lines across his face. The destruction he'd unleashed stretched far beyond anything written in military doctrine. He had thought it would bring him peace. It hadn't. Colonel Wu approached, her steps careful, her tone low. "Sir, the Seraph have surrendered. The Kuru and I as well. Even the Threxian oligarchs are asking for terms." "Good," Hale murmured. "Let them talk. They want proof we'll stop." He smiled faintly, a ghost of irony. "They still think we negotiate." Wu hesitated. "Sir, how far do we take this? Whole civilizations are dying, species that weren't even part of the King's crusade." He turned toward her slowly, eyes reflecting the glow of a dying world on screen. "And how many of ours died on Lyra 9? You remember the broadcasts, the children in their classrooms, the smoke that never stopped rising. Did they stop then?" Her silence was an answer. Hale exhaled, voice soft but sharp. "We built peace as a shield, Avery. They thought it was a leash. Now they learn what happens when the leash snaps." In orbit above the King's capital, human vessels, black, unmarked, silent, arrived one by one. They didn't fire. They simply took position, forming a halo around the world. Every ship broadcast the same frequency, a steady, human heartbeat. Down below, the king watched through the palace dome. The sky was full of them. For the first time in his long reign, he felt small. "Open a channel," he ordered. The signal connected instantly. On his throne's projection field, the image of General Hale appeared. The human stood motionless, framed by shadows. The king forced calm into his voice. "General Hale, you claim to stand for justice, yet your hands drip with blood. What separates you from me?" Hale regarded him in silence for several seconds. "We don't call it blood," he said at last. "We call it consequence." The king sneered. "You are hypocrites. You talk of mercy while destroying worlds." "Mercy?" Hale's eyes narrowed slightly. "Mercy's a courtesy. You forfeited that when you set fire to children and called it order." "I am civilization," the king roared. "Without me there is chaos." Hale leaned forward. "Then maybe chaos deserves its turn." The words struck harder than any weapon. The king's composure cracked. "You can't win against an empire." "We already have," Hale said quietly. "We just haven't told you yet." At that moment, the palace trembled. Outside, the sky turned red as orbital lights aligned in formation. The king shouted, "You'll kill billions. You'll destroy history." Hale's expression softened, almost pitying. "History was the first thing you killed." He gave a brief signal. In silence, the human ships fired. Not bombs, not plasma, light. Pure, radiant light that folded space itself. The palace walls wavered like water, reality bending around the weight of human technology no alien mind could understand. The king fell to his knees, clutching the floor as the world around him blurred into brilliance. When the glare faded, the palace still stood, but its windows looked out upon a dead sky. Every star beyond Varen Prime had vanished. The king screamed, but no sound left his throat. Hale's voice filled the air, calm and omnipresent. "You're not dead," he said. "We didn't destroy your world. We isolated it. The stars you see are memories, frozen echoes. You will live in the silence you gave us." The king stared upward, trembling. "You can't." "We already did." "In the war command bunker," Wu whispered, "you trapped them in their own system." Hale didn't look away from the monitors. "Not trapped. Preserved. Let them remember." He stood there for a long time, watching the static fade into black. Around him, the officers remained motionless, unsure whether to feel triumph or grief. The world's most dangerous man looked almost fragile in the glow of victory. Finally, Wu spoke, voice unsteady. "Sir, the rest of the galaxy will fear us now." Hale gave a small, weary smile. "Then they finally understand us." Outside, Earth's orbit shimmered with returning light as hidden satellites reactivated one by one. Humanity's presence, once erased, began to hum back into being. Transmission channels reopened, calm and orderly, as though nothing had happened. The rest of the galaxy would see normalcy again, but they would never forget the silence. In the command chamber, Hale approached the viewport. Snow fell quietly outside the reinforced glass, melting against the cold metal. "We built civility," he said, almost to himself. "It wasn't armor, it was camouflage." Wu joined him. And now, he looked at the falling snow, the reflection of his face fractured in each flake. "Now we stopped pretending we were ever tame." A low tremor rippled through the bunker as Janus protocols disengaged, returning control to human hands. Across the galaxy, the last of the corrupted systems rebooted, each bearing a new watermark invisible to most eyes. Property of humanity, version 2. The war was over, but the silence, the perfect, deliberate silence, lingered, an unspoken warning carved into every mind that had witnessed it. Far away, on Varen Prime, the king looked up at the unmoving stars. "They called us gods," he whispered to no one, "and we created devils." In the command center, Hale closed his eyes. For the first time, he looked tired. "Civilization," he murmured, "was always a mask. And now the galaxy has seen the face beneath." Then the power cut for just a second, a flicker like the heartbeat of the universe. And when the lights returned, Hale was gone. Only his coffee cup remained, still warm, beside the console, where one final transmission blinked, ready to send. It was addressed to the stars. We tried peace. We tried patience. Now the galaxy will learn memory never fades.